This is a special presentation of Atmospheres. The Weather Channel turns 20.
It is absolutely ferocious here on the eastern side.
Blustery winds gusting to 77. There's John Hope sitting there, so we can't go there.
We did our best to warn people what kind of a hurricane this was.
It continues to be fierce.
It's one of about 80 to 90 miles an hour.
Every time there's a hurricane in the Gulf, we are glued to the Weather Channel.
This is a dangerous situation.
Very large tornado.
Oh, there it is again. There go the sirens again. If need be, we will seek immediate shelter.
Unbelievable! Tornado on the ground! That's why we're here. We know the house is breaking, Dad.
Dear God, that just leaves me speechless.
You did see some off in the distance. They were just unbelievable.
We have to be constantly aware in the wintertime when we get a heavy snow.
See how that reduces visibility?
Woo! We're also seeing a lot of drifting snow.
When it snows or the weather's bad, I watch that in terms of how the roads are.
Gusts today have been 35 to 40 miles an hour.
We know there's threatening weather coming. That's the place to be. Watch the Weather Channel.
Today's Weather Channel, seen in 84 million homes. But 20 years ago, it started life in very humble surroundings. Hi, I'm Marshall Cease. In fact, this office is where the first broadcast originated from. Coming up, we'll show you the Weather Channel's unlikely journey from the early days of cable television to today, now accepted into everyone's home. The road to acceptance wasn't easy. In 1982, cable was new. There were only 19 basic cable channels. Today, there are 130.
Do you remember what kind of response you got from critics the first day?
Oh, they laughed at us. Some people scoffed about it. They said, weather 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, won't work. People won't watch. Can't make any money.
Now, watch as the clusters come together on the radar.
Former Good Morning America meteorologist John Coleman ignored the critics and with financial backing from Landmark Communications, launched a 24-hour weather network. Finally, a cable channel for weather fans to watch and a place for weather nuts to work.
It's something new. It's something unique. It may never pass this way again. And while it was a risk, I thought it was worth the risk. So I gave it a shot. I figured if I'm going to do weather and learn weather, what better place than a room surrounded by weather freaks.
A staff of 100 was assembled and a launch date was set.
We were all out in Las Vegas. I don't know how many people we had. We had lots of people in the major ballroom of one of the hotels ready to launch this thing. And some person that was there went by and kicked one of the plugs out. We lost juice. We lost the connection to our uplink.
Fortunately, power was restored, and at 8 p.m. on May 2nd, 1982, Frank Batten Sr. hit the switch. It was very tense in the Atlanta studio.
What am I going to say? What am I going to say? What am I going to say? I mean, because he was the ceremonial light switch, roll the ID, and start in. And it was like, oh, what are we going to say? It's got to be something hopefully memorable.
And good evening, America. Welcome to the Weather Channel, the non-ending Weather Telethon. I'm Bruce Edwards. Glad to be with you this evening.
And I'm Andre Bernier. Glad you can join us from wherever you're viewing across the country. Hello, everybody.
Wild, absolutely wild. Sheer terror and excitement all at the same time. My heart was pounding so hard that I would be surprised if the microphone was not picking it up because it felt like it was just exploding out of my chest.
When do you use your ceiling fan?
With little advertising revenue, the Weather Channel struggled for survival. To generate much-needed cash, they produced some of the very first infomercials.
The direct airflow creates a cooling wind chill effect on the skin. I wish that I would have been paid every time that the weather on your ceiling fan. I still have people who in the mall who stop me and ask me which way to turn their ceiling fan.
After a year, John Coleman and Landmark parted ways. To survive, Landmark realized something drastic had to be done. They approached the cable companies with a novel idea. Would they pay the Weather Channel for its service?
The proudest moment was when all of the cable operators voted and said, yes, we'll pay you. Because if they hadn't, we would have failed.
Up to the minute local forecast, 8 times an hour, 24 hours a day, every day.
The other big selling point to the cable companies was the ability for each viewer to receive their own local forecast.
Weather of a higher order.
Accurate, dependable. We had to have local. That really was a defining moment in terms of the willingness of cable operators to take us once we could do that, because it differentiated us from almost any other service.
Always on the 8s of every hour.
The Weather Channel received a new lease on life. As financial tension eased, they were able to concentrate on their core mission, informing and educating the viewers about the dangers of severe weather. Tornadoes, floods, blizzards, and of course, hurricanes.
This is the third hurricane to threaten northwest Florida this season. We're on St. George Island, the Barrier Island, offshore Apalachicola, and the Gulf of Mexico is churning up even though Kate is over 100 miles away.
The eye of Hurricane Kate is ashore on the Florida Panhandle.
The hurricane warning program has always been about team effort. The Weather Channel has done a terrific job. They're a true partner in this area.
The Weather Channel has been a great assistance to FEMA and other areas of the emergency management community in providing up-to-date storm information, hurricane information, severe weather information for people to take proper action to protect themselves.
We got a letter from a viewer saying that her young child was home alone at the time, had the Weather Channel on, listened and heard the safety tips that we were put forth.
Do you know what to do if a tornado is approaching? Here are some rules to follow if you're in your home.
And took the precautions, went to the basement, got out of harm's way, and the mother says the child hadn't heard that. Watching the Weather Channel, who knows what would have happened with their son.
When no storms threatened, the on-camera folks let their creative juices run wild.
A baseball will go farther when the humidity is high than it will on a dry day. Water vapor molecules are lighter than most of the other gases that make up the air.
Monotonous weather in Hawaii, it's simply not true. So if you ask someone in the islands out to dinner and he says, meet you after the shower, you could end up very hungry before he gets there. You're right on time, dear.
You see, Charles Dickens grew up in the early 1800s at the end of what is known as the Little Ice Age. The Charles Dickens thing was, it had some weather associated with it. It wanted to show that there was a time in southern England when it was much colder there than it is now, that the Thames River, for example, would ice over, which I understand it never does now.
Wish you all of you.
As it became more successful, the Weather Channel outgrew its old studios, and in April of 1988 moved into a new office building. For more diverse programming, they had already begun experimenting with live reports. The first, carrying live pictures from Cape Canaveral as NASA launched a new weather satellite.
I'm going to pressurize now myself and let you listen to Delta Launch Command. 3, 2, 1, 0. Main engine start.
And in September 1988, these advances hit a new peak as they broadcast live from a hurricane for the very first time.
I'm Dennis Smith alongside Liz Jarvis. We're in Corpus Christi, just about in the bay right here. And it looks like the winds continue to pick up and the waves are really getting choppy right now, Liz.
That's right, Dennis. Surprisingly, though, no real rain yet.
Live reports are now a part of a normal day. Since 1982, technology and the Weather Channel have come a long way. Some of the original employees have been through a lot and remember the early days with fondness.
I was totally intimidated by the talent. Ironically, you know, we didn't grab a whole lot of viewership, but I thought we had an incredibly talented crew, although it was sort of a lawlessness, if you will, back then.
You know, and it's snowing in Green Bay and Manitowoc, Milwaukee, and the eastern side of Wisconsin, and I can name other places where it's snowing.
It's snowing.
It's snowing at the Weather Channel in Atlanta, Georgia.
When I first became involved in it, it was sort of like, the what? The Weather Channel? 24 hours of weather? No way. It's not going to happen.
Today, the Weather Channel lives in an even bigger building and employs nearly 1,000 people. Over 20 years, it has become more than just a cable channel. It's become part of the social fabric, a valuable and life-saving resource used by many different people.
I don't hear many people laughing much anymore.
When we come back, What's the Weather Channel doing on Oprah? Coming up, becoming part of America's culture. And later, we'll show you the most memorable moments in Weather Channel history. But first, a moment not so memorable.
That's right. We got Maryland moving through Martinique, and
that's right. We want you to
guys
see.
washing the windows.
That's right. We want to make sure you see good.
That's right.
That's right. We want you to see clearly into the forecast center, so we know exactly what's going on.
This 20th anniversary special is sponsored by Ruth's Chris Steakhouse and AT&T Long Distance. Let your long distance be unlimited.
Sweeps Weeks. It's the time of year when television programmers try to titillate, manipulate, and excitiate, all in the name of ratings. And perhaps nowhere is this practice more shocking and blatant than here at the Weather Channel.
From humble beginnings, the Weather Channel today is everywhere.
One would think, I think when I come in and I see this globe that you guys obviously have plans for world domination. And that you sit here and...
You'll be surprised where the Weather Channel crops up and who watches them.
Not only is it interesting to know what the weather is, where you're going, or where you've just come from, or what it's going to be while you're somewhere, it's always interesting to know what's going on in all other parts of the country and the world.
When I say I watch the Weather Channel, big applause. I say it's always exciting, the Weather Channel, because there are no reruns.
Very rare occurrence.
For 20 years, the Weather Channel's been in the very serious business of delivering the weather.
Is that it occurred in a mountainous region and it hit a metropolitan area.
In the process, it's become a cultural icon, an information source people turn to in times of powerful and uncontrollable weather, which is one reason why you'll see the Weather Channel on other networks.
George is only the second hurricane to ever hit the land masses of the Virgin Islands, Cuba, Hispaniola.
National news outlets have come to value the Weather Channel's expertise.
People quote the Weather Channel, even the other networks, television. I use the Weather Channel.
I may get lost, and you may have to find me in April.
Uh-oh, we're going to lose him. Mike's going under. Talk to us, Mike.
I'm here. I think I'm on somebody's car.
It's almost been like a roller coaster, taking a big meander toward the north, and then a big plunge out of Canada toward the south.
Now at the Weather Channel.
And you're just as likely to see the Weather Channel on your local news as on a national network.
There's more to come, isn't that right, Paul?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's kind of surprising. It looks like we're going to have snow that's going to go through the night.
Along the way, all this exposure has helped some of the Weather Channel reporters become media celebrities in their own right.
What would be your dream assignment after a winter like this?
Well, after spending, this is just starting. We have a lot of snow coming, I'm afraid.
Right over. Jump right in. Weather on the 9s, Sports Center now.
Hi, everybody. Glad to have you with us on Sports Center, despite all the weather references. No Jim Cantori.
You can see some of the ferocity of this wind.
My least favorite things are when you put poor Mr. Cantori in anything, and he's got the blue thing on, and he's standing there, and the winds are thrashing him in the face. You don't have to do that to him. He seems like a nice fellow.
Now, there's a woman on the Weather Channel who's going to be a big star.
Really?
I think her name is Janetta Jones. Someone will call you and tell you whether I was right or not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ironically, it's the Weather Channel's sober, analytical approach to the weather, which makes it such an inviting target for America's comedians.
Look, Andy's little, attempt to learn another venue in broadcasting. Exactly. Let's see.
Thanks for joining us on the Weather Channel. I'm Marnie Stanier, alongside with Andy Richter, joining us today. Andy's going to help us cover the weather from coast to coast, including all that heavy rain in the Northeast. Andy?
There's a lot of heavy rain in the Northeast today, Marnie. Let's take a look at some of our highs for Sunday. We've got morning rises happening.
The Weather Channel's come under a lot of criticism from some for using sex and violence to pump up its ratings. How would you respond?
I haven't heard that criticism.
Oh, it's been said.
Well, I personally do not use sex or violence in my weather forecasting.
How about otherwise?
What do you mean otherwise?
Out into the Gulf of Mexico.
John Hope. Now, there's a man who frightens old people. I'm old people. And when I see John Hope, then I know that something not good is coming.
They may poke fun, but the Weather Channel does have a large following.
Let me suggest to you first that if you look around, very warm down here at home in the Atlanta area and all across down into Texas.
Weather in Afghanistan, 2,000 degrees and cloudy. I'm stuck on the Weather Channel.
About the, was it?
These fans are used to taking a ribbing for their devotion.
I don't know anyone except you that actually watches.
Oh, come on.
The
No,
Weather
Channel.
No, you, no.
I'm telling you right now, it's the next coolest thing.
No, you check with the Weather Channel. You watch it like it's a 2-hour movie.
You watch it.
You don't watch it for 7 or 8 hours.
No, there are like stars on the Weather Channel.
One cable news network even devoted an entire story to the secret of the Weather Channel's appeal.
There's Jim Cantore.
Oh,
he's my favorite.
Actually, he's not totally bald. He's just got a receding hairline.
For Nick and Lorraine, it's hard to imagine life before the Weather Channel.
Devoted fans of the Weather Channel will tell you that there's one storyline they've been following for years on the network.
There's a little mystery and a little bit of soap opera with the Weather Channel, because the women get pregnant and they never say who did it. But then they come back and they never say what they had or anything. It's sort of like gone, and we all know. We say, well, she'll be back. And sure enough, maybe 6, 7 months later, they're back. So it is like soap opera. There's Vivian Brown with her own Southern hospitality, y'all personality, and she too fell victim to the look. You know, we don't know what she had. And we don't know who the father is of any of these women. Some people say it's John Hope doing all of that work.
In truth, it's a different kind of passion that may be the secret to the Weather Channel's appeal. A passion for the weather.
Oh! Is that lightning?
When we come back, the most important storms in America's and the Weather Channel's history. But first, a minor moment in their history they might rather forget.
I like snow, John.
Well, there's a lot of it right there.
A lot of it. And we need these aviation weather reports because I'm going to be flying across the skies. I need to know what the weather's going to be like.
Okay, are you about ready to go now?
Surfing through the TV channels, there are hundreds of choices. People are looking to be entertained. They're looking to be informed. But of all the channels out there, a special relationship has been developed with one.
This is a particularly dangerous and life-threatening situation. A tornado has hit Tuscaloosa, Alabama. That same storm now is headed toward Bessemer and Birmingham, Alabama.
Unlike most television stations, the Weather Channel gives information that could help save someone's life.
Because vehicles can become missiles during a tornado, people do need to get out of their cars. But a bridge or overpass is no protection.
And over 20 years, viewers have formed a bond of trust.
I think they provide services to all over the country to people who are in a vulnerable position as far as hurricanes and tornadoes and that sort of thing.
You always turn to the Weather Channel because you can't always get instant updates on the local channels. So the Weather Channel is good when they have those tropical storms. You're trying to track them and everything else.
To many viewers, the Weather Channel is different than other cable channels. It's the only channel offering weather information 24/7. People have come to rely on the Weather Channel more as a public service.
Right out over the water.
Something to be trusted, especially in times of severe storms.
Every time there's a hurricane in the Gulf, we are glued to the Weather Channel. That's part of living on the Gulf Coast.
If you live in Montgomery, if you live in Columbus, if you live in Birmingham, Atlanta, Chattanooga, Knoxville, this is your hurricane too.
The Hugo and the Andrew events and the graphic depictions of
both of those storms in the media has served to reinforce the need for people to evacuate, and the Lessons of Andrew series on the Weather Channel had uncanny timing in terms of our ability to deliver that message.
Federal and local officials watch anxiously as storms edge closer. To them, the Weather Channel is a vital resource.
The Weather Channel has become a mainstay in any emergency manager's office that you walk in.
The general feel has been around Panama City. Dennis?
Over the years, many professionals have come to trust the information they get from the Weather Channel and use it on a daily basis.
Weather starts early in the morning when I first get up and I look at the Weather Channel. I check, of course, my route, but I check the effect of what is soon to happen.
Even those moving a little slower turn to the Weather Channel.
Watch Weather Channel probably every day. You know, it not only being a pilot from my end of it, but as far as races are concerned, you know, you're constantly affected by the weather.
In fact, the trust people place in the Weather Channel extends all the way to their children. The Weather Channel is in the classroom.
We're trying to learn why it is that some supercell storms produce tornadoes and others don't.
With more students having access to computers, teachers now use the Weather Channel through the internet.
And you're going to put overcast.
I teach meteorology and 8th grade earth science. I love the Weather Channel. I watch it all the time. Tell my students to watch it.
Now, from the Weather Channel, here's your local forecast, always on the 8s of every hour.
Weather Channel viewers have also learned over 20 years that they can always tune into the local forecast to plan their daily activities.
I work construction, so I got to watch the radar. Even in the homes I work in, I got to turn that, put your cable, shut the Weather Channel on. I got to see what the weather's going to do.
I watch the Weather Channel, prepare my day, so I know what to expect as far as weather goes, what to be able to wear.
Well, it helps me because I work for our school district, and we have to be constantly aware in the wintertime when we get a heavy snow to go out and plow the driveways, parking lots, shovel snow.
As the Weather Channel continues to build on this trust, they are working on ways for more people to get weather information. This information will no longer be restricted to TV, radio, computer, and newspaper. You will receive all the latest info while on the move. Severe weather alerts will be sent directly to your cell phone, Palm Pilot, or pager.
I'm very excited about the opportunities that are going to be out there in the future with interactive and digital and all of the new technologies, whichever succeed.
So next time you're flipping through the channels, try looking at the Weather Channel through different eyes. In its 20 years, it's become more than your local forecast. It could help save you or the life of someone you love. When we come back, some of the greatest moments of Weather Channel history.
Really?
But first, another moment not so memorable.
Here. You wouldn't even be able to get this off with the wipers as we'll replace that for this gentleman.
You don't happen to know whose car that was, do you?
No idea.
Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, serving U.S. prime beef for more than 35 years. www.ruthchris.com.
If there's one thing that people tend to remember about the Weather Channel, it's how they covered the big weather events. In its 20 years, the Weather Channel has covered every one of them. Now, we're going to show you the most memorable storms of Weather Channel history. Big storms always capture the imagination of the viewing public, and Hurricane Opal was no exception. This hurricane strengthened from a Category 2 to a strong Category 4 as people slept. A major concern for those working at the Weather Channel.
Hurricane Opal caught a few folks off guard this morning, John, as we saw it absolutely explode overnight and turn into a very near Cat 5 hurricane.
I've seen a lot of hurricanes, Jim, and I never saw one strengthen as rapidly as this. But a Category 4 hurricane, the wind damage can be very, very great indeed.
Pensacola Beach, which did get hit by Hurricane Aaron, probably will be dealt a much more severe blow.
Quite a baptism for an on-camera meteorologist used to covering hurricanes from the studio, but not from the field.
For years I wanted to do live shots, but little did I know
that I was getting into a Category 4, borderline Category 5 Hurricane Opal, and literally it was staring right at us and pointed right at us in Pensacola Beach. And once again, the rain has been tremendous. I have probably never witnessed so much rain in my life.
Well, Bill, if you've never seen so much rain in your life, you're going to see a lot more in the next few hours, I'm sure. We had a lot of traffic there, people trying to evacuate. They were bumper to bumper. And that could have been one of the worst fears that we ever have, a Category 5 hurricane catching people out there on the highway where they couldn't move.
And we have seen a pretty impressive hurricane here go up almost to Category 5. It's weakened, and that's great news this afternoon.
While hurricanes have long lifespans and lend themselves to live coverage, the same is not true of flooding, unless you're talking about the historic events of 1993.
I'm Jeff Morrow along the banks of the Mississippi River, where they're having the worst flooding since 1973. Stay with the Weather Channel for continuous updates.
For the last couple of weeks, we've continued to talk about rain, heavy rain, and flooding from the Missouri into the Mississippi River Valley. That crest, that flood crest, continues to work its way south this evening. We have the Weather Channel's Jeff Morrow standing by live there.
Earlier today, we were 20 miles up the river in Grafton, Illinois, and there flooding is already a major problem. This is the last thing the 1,000 residents of Grafton, Illinois wanted to see today. More heavy rain helping to swell the mighty Mississippi River. Streets and houses around the area have already become submerged. Where we're riding right now is normally over about the bank of the Mississippi River. The water a lot farther inland into the town of Grafton. The worst flooding here since 1973.
43, welcome aboard flight 2156 over to San Juan.
While floods are easy to find, getting the Weather Channel people in place before a storm arrives is always tricky.
No, it is not going to happen this morning because we cannot get a satellite signal out of this room, so we have to move.
Sometimes the storm just doesn't pan out, but on most occasions the meteorologist is in the middle of the action.
We are looking, ladies and gentlemen, at one heck of a snowstorm in the making, and it looks like this could be one of the major snowstorms of the century for some of the big cities in the east.
This was not a surprise snowstorm. Everybody knew this one was coming, and they knew that it could be an epic storm, and it looks like it may be turning out to be that.
It definitely seems like the cold air is hanging tough here in New York City, but big flakes, it continues to accumulate.
This has been a storm for the record books in many locations. Here's a look at some of the snowfall that has accumulated from this storm system so far.
I have to thank the Weather Channel because this is something where we started preparing Saturday, moving National Guard equipment and people into the metropolitan area because we did have such advance warning that this was going to be a major storm.
Today, viewers automatically associate the Weather Channel with sending people into the worst kinds of weather. But it wasn't always so. It took 6 years, until 1988, before the first live crews were dispatched. Naturally, it was a hurricane.
And we have a report from them right now.
Well, the weather situation, as far as we're concerned here, it is not that bad at this moment. But as Mr. Lance did mention, he said 3 funnel clouds have touched down, tornadoes in the Brownsville area. And, of course, that's a possibility tonight.
We just kind of drove along the Gulf Coast and made it down to Corpus Christi, where we hooked up with a live truck. And they had dispatched Dennis Smith. So he and I hooked up together to do that live shot, and it was interesting. It was just Dennis and I really talking about what we had seen.
Well, Dennis, this is the heaviest rain we've seen since we first got to Brownsville earlier this afternoon.
This is our latest satellite picture, which shows you that the eye is very close to the shore. We'll go ahead and put this into motion, and we can show you what's happened since daybreak this morning.
This storm and its impact was a little bit less than what we expected, but still, just to be out there in the elements and broadcasting was great.
After the success of bringing hurricanes into viewers' living rooms, the Weather Channel in 1990 decided that it was time to cover major snowstorms live.
We are closely monitoring the Midwest's first major winter storm. We've had some very, very heavy snows across the upper Midwest. It's snowing at 1 to 3 inches an hour. And we are talking to Marnie Stanier this morning live in Milwaukee. Marnie, how is it out there?
We are in an intense winter storm right now. Winter storm warnings are in effect. We have winds in from the east, northeast at about 45 miles per hour. And I'll tell you what, I'm having a hard time relaying this to you because I'm being blown around. I was one of the first people that the Weather Channel actually sent live, other than hurricanes. We were sort of pioneers. Being from Atlanta, we didn't have a lot of heavy coats and hats and mittens and the right clothes to wear for blizzard conditions, 40 below wind chills, I believe, that we had not properly prepared.
When we got there, it was just brutally cold, and I just remember Marnie. I mean, they have these incredible live shots of her standing outside and getting blown around by the snow. It's probably the most miserablest I've ever been in my time at the Weather Channel. But TV-wise, it came off real well because the shots looked so good and so dramatic.
Thunder snow. Have you seen anything like that or heard anything like that?
Well, as a matter of fact, yes, we have. Last night when we were pulling in, about 2 a.m. in the morning, we did see some off in the distance, and it was just unbelievable. It was, without a doubt, one of the toughest times, I think, because we just were out there for such a long period of time.
When we return, the top 6 Weather Channel memorable moments, including a tornado and hurricane that will never be forgotten. But first, here's another moment the Weather Channel might prefer you did forget.
I believe. Let me take you to New Orleans by way of video, if we can do that right now. Can we not do that? I guess we cannot do that right now. Well, let me tell you that that is not the video. We will be taking you by way of video to D-Day coming up a little bit later on.
This 20th anniversary special is sponsored by Cadillac. Bold vehicles define convention. Cadillac, break through. And Carrier, the world leader in heating and air conditioning since 1902. Sponsored by Once Daily Allegra, hexafenadine hydrochloride. For additional important information, visit Allegra.com. Side effects with Allegra 180 milligram for seasonal allergies are low and may include headache, cold, and back pain.
Covering severe weather outbreaks live is very difficult.
It's an F4 tornado, John.
Tornadoes can be forecast, but to actually pinpoint where they will occur is impossible. On one occasion, though, the Weather Channel's crew was in the right place at the wrong time. The number 6 most memorable Weather Channel moment is a violent tornado.
We want to go live to Wichita and see the damage that the first tornado did and see what's happening right there. Dennis, what's the story?
Lots of frequent lightning, and has just been indicated around Sedgwick County another tornado warning. There go the sirens again. If need be, we will seek immediate shelter here as well. Right now, we're not in an immediate area of threat.
We were in the general vicinity when the tornado was on the ground. We were actually covering the next storm to its west, and it did produce hail, it did produce damaging winds, but the tornadic storm was just to our east. So we were on the scene probably within minutes after the event took place and started our broadcast on what was going on in that town.
Extensive damage through Andover, and it's in west central Butler County, east of Wichita, but as far as the damage and a dollar assessment, no figure as at this point.
All right, that's Dennis Smith reporting live from Andover, Kansas, hit hard by a tornado this evening with as many as 22 people confirmed dead.
Probably a humbling experience for me, because as we were even covering it the next day with other media outlets in the vicinity, realizing someone was going down the street with a shopping cart filled and realized that's all they had left of their earthly belongings.
Sometimes people don't have to leave the friendly confines of the Atlanta studio. The storm comes to them.
We all really, as a group, had it pegged quite a number of days out ahead. And again, also the models were very good with that, so that helped us as well. People give me a lot of credit for having had that on the extendeds well out ahead of when that occurred.
Good evening. I'm Keith Westerledge here in the Weather Channel Forecast Center. We have a major storm developing in the Gulf Coast. It's going to be affecting most of the eastern states with blizzard-like conditions, severe thunderstorms, and of course, quite a bit of wind.
Here's our storm system once again on Saturday. Heavy snows from New England all the way down to North Georgia, Atlanta getting in on the act to the east.
I walked that morning when the rain changed over to the snow, and I was out walking to work when we had the lightning strikes and everything. It's fun to forecast the weather and to see it happen in any part of the country, but still the greatest thrill is to really be part of it and experience it.
Buchanan alongside Bill Keneally. And Bill...
In the fall of 1989, the Weather Channel was still relatively unknown. But that all changed when a devastating hurricane set its sights on the east coast of the United States, putting the Weather Channel on the map as the source for hurricane information.
At this time, the eye of the hurricane is less than 200 miles from Charleston. It continues to move toward the northwest at just about 20 miles an hour. We think that's going to bring the center inland by midnight or possibly slightly before.
We had our act pretty well together then, and I think we did an excellent job of covering Hurricane Hugo. I was on the air about 17, 18 consecutive hours as the hurricane was making landfall. Now, it came in as a Category 4, and that was the first Category 4 hurricane that had hit the United States in a great many years.
Within the last hour, we've seen the rain pick up, but a dramatic increase in the winds. Occasionally, as we're holding on, occasionally on up to about 50 miles an hour in gusts.
We positioned ourselves far enough away from the immediate coastline that we could broadcast and still get out the information without being in the immediate path of the storm. I probably didn't feel a real threat to what the storm could be because we weren't right in the heart of it. We wanted to safely broadcast the information.
There is a story.
The reflectivities are high. Look at the bow shape in that line.
Best explained by people who understand it. 10 years later, the Weather Channel had become a household name, and viewers tuned in record numbers for a hurricane that threatened the entire East Coast.
From Florida to the Carolinas, all eyes are on Hurricane Floyd, a powerful Category 4 hurricane that's closing in on the coast.
5 states are now on alert as a result of the potential impact that Hurricane Floyd may have.
Well, Christina, again, each one of these little rain bands that continues to come in allows for more and more gusty winds. We just had a pretty ferocious gust, I think well over 40 miles an hour.
It's still a very dangerous hurricane, 140 miles an hour. That's down from that 155 it had yesterday.
We've been here through Hugo, and that was devastating. So we want to do it again. So we're leaving.
Nearly 2 million people agreed with her, creating the biggest evacuation in U.S. history.
Fueling up, gonna go home and grab a few things and head west.
It wasn't a direct hit from Floyd, but it was close enough that when we did get the wind, it was gusting well up over 100 miles an hour. There was a lot of debris. You really couldn't see what was coming. That was nerve-wracking.
North Carolina was also hit hard by Floyd flooding. Coast Guard helicopters are working to rescue about 300 people stranded by the flooded Tar River.
The state of New York is preparing for Floyd's arrival. New York City, for example, has opened 20 shelters. Power companies in New York City and Long Island are telling people to expect power outages as that storm rips through the region.
Hopefully we're at the climax of Hurricane Floyd. Still unrelenting rain here in Solomon's Island, 50 miles southeast of Washington, D.C. on the Chesapeake.
Later tonight, off the New Jersey coast, Friday morning, way up here, and you can see here that we don't expect it to turn inland.
Very large tornado.
Sometimes luck has more to do with the Weather Channel covering a story than planning. They had a crew in Oklahoma City in May of 1999, a crew totally unaware that history was about to be made.
I wasn't really scared for my life or anything like that. It was just, everything was just so surreal. I was in Atlanta in the morning, and then I ended up in Oklahoma City, and there we are, faced by an FOF 5 tornado. I remember just being very quiet. There's no wind, and there's just a little bit of hail. But like a quarter mile in front of us, we saw this tornado just churning up everything in front of it.
This is no longer a potentially dangerous situation. This is a dangerous situation. Anyone in the vicinity of downtown Oklahoma City, you should be taking shelter immediately. In fact, you should not be listening to me at this time. We have several reports of tornadoes in and around the Oklahoma City area. We have reports of injuries. Let's go to Weather Channel producer Simon Temperton, who is near Moore and is on the phone right now.
Yeah, John, we just were on Highway 44 and we left, as we came around the corner, we saw a tornado about half a mile wide in front of us.
It doesn't get any worse than this.
The unsettling part was that people had not even been allowed back in their homes. We were getting the first look at all the damage. And it was just the most incredible, awe-inspiring thing I've ever seen, that all these houses were completely flattened. I'll never forget that day.
Dear God. Swing around and
see this as many times as you want, and that to me is just, that just leaves me speechless. That's, wow.
That's not the only day Weather Channel employees will never forget.
As I look back at my 15 years on the air, that was a morning that I will never forget.
Coming up, that incredible storm, the most memorable in Weather Channel history. But first, a not-so-memorable moment.
All right, I'm told that we can go now to a crew standing by in Mobile, Alabama, waiting for storms to move in that direction. Kristen Dodd is standing by there in Mobile, and it's quite windy. Kristen?
Janetta, the conditions here in Mobile, Alabama remind my storm-savvy crew of an approaching tropical storm.
Probably the biggest storm in the Weather Channel's 20 years was a hurricane so intense and devastating that no one working that day will ever forget it.
Good morning. We're live in the Weather Channel Forecast Center. Continue to watch history in the making here on August 24th, 1992. Let me show you what it looks like in the form of Hurricane Andrew, a very strong hurricane making its way onshore right now. Landfall again. The eye wall is now well onshore across South Dade County.
Our current conditions at Coral Gables is one of about 80 to 90 miles an hour and an occasional gust, and the rain and squalls can continue to come on down.
You felt like you were at the scene of an accident with no lights. We'd lost power about 3 a.m. for a 5 a.m. landfall, and you could look out and you could hear metal crunching, you could hear glass breaking, you could hear wood chipping away, you could hear bending and twisting, but you couldn't hardly see it because it was pitch black.
Oh, I was very concerned. As you recall, it came in very early in the morning, and I had been on the air all night, and we did our best to warn people what kind of a hurricane this was, but I always had the feeling, as I do in most major hurricanes, that there are a lot of people there in the hurricane's path that don't quite realize how bad it's going to be.
We will get extensive reports of damage because this was a Category 4 storm on the Saffir-Simpson scale. As I look back at my 15 years on the air, that was a morning that I will never forget. We were watching the eye of Hurricane Andrew cross South Florida, and it was so quiet around the Weather Channel because we knew that we weren't hearing a thing from South Florida. We weren't hearing any reports, no communication, and just the thought of what was actually happening because the eye, when it held together perfectly.
We were just out there. We realized it could be life-threatening, but at the same token, we had a job to do and we were going to do the job. We had just lived through what this total destruction of this area. Not only did we live through it, but we were there on the scene broadcasting it live to the nation on what was going on.
In 20 years, the Weather Channel has moved from an audience of thousands to a potential audience of millions. Today, it's become part of the social fabric of this country, accepted by many into their homes on a daily basis. Now, the Weather Channel is growing as a network. It's developing new kinds of weather programming. Specials like Storm Week, Atmospheres, Storm Stories, and other related programming are all part of the new Weather Channel. It's come a long way.
Hey, Weather Channel, happy 20th birthday. There's a special time of year, and that's Christmas.
It's going to be real cold and snowy in the north. Oh dear. Cold weather. That means I either go in the front doors or get out the fireproof underwear.
I watch Jim Cantori. I always loved him. I like this sparkle. I like this twinkle.
Oh, jeez. Oh, man. Who was on this wall? Give me a little lift. Give me a little confidence.
Do I get, like, Weather Channel swag? I'd like to have, like, a jacket.
I know the one lady with blonde hair. She was pregnant, and she cut her hair.
How about a golf shirt or something?
Janetta Jones. Yes, she cut her hair. That was big news in our town. I want you to see an occluded front. Now, that's what we call an occluded front. That is a weather term.
Can I get some stuff?
And I want Mr. Schwartz to tell what happens to snow shovels.
I'm pleading to the Weather Channel management.
People buy them once a year. You use them.
I will walk around and be a Weather Channel billboard.
And then, when the next year comes, they're out buying the snow shovels again. Now, here is a backdoor cold front. Watch this. Whoopee!
I needed the Weather Channel to watch the weather all day through. You need us, the Weather Channel, for everything you do. Okay, that's it.
Now you can read how we beat the odds in the Weather Channel, The Improbable Rise of a Media Phenomenon. Ask for it at your local bookstore.